You know, we've heard a lot of commentary in the last few weeks about what seemed to be the overwhelming number of celebrity deaths in 2016. And a couple people have pointed out that one of the reasons for that is because everybody's getting older, and as the heroes of each generation age, they're going, or the famous people, heroes or not, of each age and get older, they're going to start dying off. That's clearly a factor here. I can remember in the 1960s when my parents would look at each other and say, I can't believe it, Tommy Dorsey died, or whomever. So of course every generation goes through a certain amount of that. It's heroes aging out and dying. I would argue that there's another force at work also in all of this, which is, I think in a way now, because of the internet, more people are famous. And by that I mean more people are subject to an instant connectivity, an instant viral spreading of the news. So for example, when the actor who played Father Mulcahy on MASH passes away, had a very nice presence, that actor. You know, it might have gotten a back page obituary in the New York Times or whatever, but there's a certain virality that goes around that because of the internet. And that's also true of many figures who died in the music and entertainment world in the past year. I mean, obviously some of them were giants, and we can't discount that the passing of giants in any era would have an enormous impact. A David Bowie or a Carrie Fisher or a George Michael or who have you. But I would say a lot of people are coming to our attention that might not have come to our attention in quite the same way in previous eras. But that said, I would like to, just from my musical side, point out a couple of the people we lost last year that might not have gotten quite the public attention. You might have heard about it, but maybe didn't get the tributes that I wished they would have had, or at least meant a lot to me. I will say, for one thing, I think I was 15 when and rock and roll music, and I was dedicated to rock and roll music, had turned from the kind of rootsy Stones, Beatles thing I was used to a kind of progressive rock was coming up. I wasn't feeling the emotional connection to it I had, and one night I turned on the Smothers Brothers TV program, and I'd never really heard country music, but there was Merle Haggard singing Mama Tried. And I have to say, there was an intensity and an edge of insanity and an emotional core to Merle Haggard that I hadn't seen in rock, or felt in rock music, for some time. I wound up being a country and western singer to pay my way through help pay my way through my first couple years of college, while also being a night janitor and a couple other things. And that was essentially because of the 1-2 punch of Merle Haggard appearing one week and the late George Jones appearing the next week. Merle Haggard was a brilliant songwriter. A lot of people didn't like him because he kind of had a couple right-wing hits in the 60s, but he actually turned kind of lefty in his later years. But left or right, Merle Haggard was a great songwriter, amazing singer, was blessed to be born with an amazing name that no agent or scriptwriter could come up with. So Merle Haggard died this year. Brilliant musical talent. Very sorry to see him go. Dan Hicks died this year. Dan Hicks was also a great singer and songwriter. Never quite got the audience I think he deserved. George Martin, who produced the Beatles, he got a lot of attention. George Martin was also a brilliant talent. I'm not sure the Beatles would have been the Beatles without him. Lonnie Mack, king of the flying V guitar, he died this year, or 2016. He was a great artist of the guitar. I think any guitarist worth his salt will tell you, in the words of Carlos Santana, a player's tone is his face. And Lonnie Mack had an incredible face. On the electric guitar, I think I've covered everyone. Oh, Mose Allison. Mose Allison deserves a shout out too, as a great pianist, fascinating hip jazz singer, and great songwriter. Wrote a number of songs, including a lot of classics that in some weird radio moment are not coming to mind, but tell me something I don't know is a great Mose Allison song. Your Molecular Structure, brilliant songwriter, brilliant singer. So let's give a shout out not only to the greats, quote unquote, the cultural greats, the ones who had huge impact in the last year, but the ones who are great artists as well in 2016.